Just like my people came off the Deutschland, they came straight to the hills of Kentucky. I got 5 generations of Kentucky blood in me. Ashley Judd's got 10 generations of Kentucky blood in her. Rand Paul don't even have half a generation of Kentucky in him. He's been in here 20 years out of his 50 years on this planet. He's a 50-year-old man, and only 20 years has been residing in Kentucky. He has only 2/5 of a Kentuckian. He's got 2/5 of a Kentucky root, whereas Ashley Judd's got 10. So you want to say she is a Kentucky? That's some bullshit, Rand. You know you ain't playing fair. You're going to say she lives in Scotland? Man, you live in Kentucky, or you live in Texas. You live in Pittsburgh. Heck, I mean, you live in D.C. right now, and what are you doing up there? I heard you haven't passed one single bill. You're just talking a bunch of trash. You went up there just to talk trash. So 17% of Kentuckians said that they would vote for Mitch McConnell. So he's got 17% of Kentuckians that support him. 34% of Kentucky's voters will not vote for Mitch McConnell. They'll vote for anybody else. There's no candidate where they'll vote for anybody else. That's 1/3 of Kentucky already don't even like him, Mitch. They want to say that Ashley Judd, because she's is against mountaintop removal, and she says that the coal companies have perpetrated a rape of Appalachia. Her stances, of not being a pander to big coal, that's going to be a problem. That's not going to be a problem. That's exactly something that's going to be on her good side. She comes from Appalachia. She understands that with the loss of the coal industry, there's a lot of people in poverty. There's a lot of people that's in shambles. Letcher County, 60% of the people in Letcher County don't even have running water. How are they able to get all that coal severance pay? They get all the natural resources out of the ground. They get the coal severance, but they're not able to provide basic services for their citizens. That's the rape of Appalachia. King Coal come in, they take all the resources, and they say, fuck off, community. We don't give a shit. Ashley Judd represents the best position on that. King Coal has held on to Frankfurt with a death grip, and Ashley Judd would be somebody that would question King Coal's absolute dominance over our state legislature. In fact, FDR says that fascism is when the business class and the government class gets together, because all they want to do is just make a ton of money for themselves. They don't care about the rest of the people. They just want to enrich themselves with as much money as possible. They give money for the public treasury. I mean, why do that? Just take as much money as possible. So FDR says that's why you need government to intervene to stop big business and government from actually being one. That stops fascism. That's a democracy. So Ashley Judd is for democracy. Like Daniel Mangiardo, he said something about how he's all for coal. So he would not be for democracy. He's for pandering to the rich, moneyed interest. Jonathan Winter in the Daily Beast, wrote a very positive piece about Ashley Judd and how she could win, and he says that she has an emotional connection with the average voters, so that's incalculable in politics. So that's a good thing for Ashley Judd. Rand Paul's campaign, since he's attacking Judd, he's scared too, which I guess I do understand why he's scared. Ideologically speaking, Ashley Judd is he's on the far right. Hopefully she's on the far left, which is great. That's socialism versus anarchy. No government or big government. those are the two extremes. Do we want food stamps or do we want nothing? So Rand Paul, he says he's been taking a lot of shots of Ashley Judd, but Rand Paul said about Ashley, she's an attractive woman. She presents herself well. From what I understand, she's articulate. But the thing is, she doesn't really represent Kentucky. So Rand Paul, is he against articulate, attractive women, or is he saying that Kentucky doesn't support attractive, articulate women? Or is he saying that there's no articulate, attractive women in Kentucky? Or is he saying that people in Kentucky wouldn't support attractive and articulate candidate? Well, it's ridiculous. There's plenty of articulate and attractive women in Kentucky. But Rand Paul does hate women. He's pro-life, very, very, very pro-life. Talks about legitimate rape. and he's a gigantic racist. He voted against the 1965 Civil Rights Act. So one of the few good progressive things that Kentucky has done, 1966 had the most comprehensive civil rights bill ever passed in the state. Rand Paul would have voted against it. 1965 Civil Rights Act he would have been against. He says he would have passed it back in that day, but he is ideologically against it because he thinks a private business should be allowed to be racist if they want to be. If they want to kick out whoever they want to kick out, they should be allowed to, and the free market should decide for themselves whether or not they want that to stand. Let the people, the customers, if they want to frequent a racist restaurant, that's their choice. That would be his argument. That's why he would be against the 1965 Civil Rights Act, since the 1965 Civil Rights Act says you cannot have discrimination based on race in private businesses, in restaurants, and private places. So the very fact, Rand Paul's very campaign says that Ashley Judd can win Kentucky. Rand Paul won Kentucky by bullshit in Kentucky. He didn't get up and speak about all his radical views. He didn't say audit the Fed. He wasn't talking about bringing all the troops home. He wasn't talking about legalizing everything, which are all issues he stands for. But he didn't stand on those things. He came out and just, hey, I'm a nice guy, vote for me. I'm here flipping burgers. I'm smiling at you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking about how great the Constitution is, the budget. We need to balance it. Just obvious stuff. Like, of course, the Constitution, the whole slavery part isn't perfect about the Constitution. So I don't want to, deify the Constitution as some sort of, absolute perfect document, because it's not. And we also got a Kentucky Constitution. So Kentucky Constitution actually gives us more private rights, more freedoms. So there's a little duel there. Which one's better? You like the Kentucky Constitution or the American Constitution? Which Constitution are we talking about here? Rand? But Rand Paul bullshitted Kentucky. Instead of yelling about his positions like Gatewood Galbraith would do, he was not Mr. Razzle. He brushed it aside, and he would just say like, the federal solution isn't working. Constitution, balanced budgets are wonderful. So the fact that he had a bullshit campaign, the fact that he just said, hey, I'm nice, why don't you vote for me because I'm a nice guy, Ashley Judd could win in the exact same way. Vote for me because I'm a nice person. Give a couple speeches about some policies and then just smile for the cameras and shake lots of hands. And people would just be ecstatic to get to meet Ashley Judd. So Rand Paul wants to talk about not being in Kentucky. He talks like Ben Stein. He's a boring, unemotional, and feeling uncaring psychopath. Okay? He's also against Egypt's revolution. I understand the foreign policy perspective, but he's against Egypt's revolution, but for Israel. He says we need to take the military aid away from Egypt so we can protect Israel. It's great that Rand Paul is Israel's lapdog. It's not great. Rand Paul, I would think, is ideologically not 100% behind Israel, but he's running for president, so he's got to pander to him. We send more foreign aid to Israel. So if we really want to cut foreign aid that would be more substantial to our budget, we would take it from Israel. But instead we're targeting Egypt because because we back Israel and all their crimes, because America is Israel's bitch. That's why. But Rand Paul, he wants to talk about how she's not Kentucky. He's not Kentucky. Okay, the way he talks, how boring and unintelligible. He's not a redneck. He's not. He's just a little turd. Rand Paul's a little turd. He's too busy blowing AIPAC. He's running for president, so he's not even, sticking to his guns and what he actually believes. He's not Gatewood Galbraith. He's not homebrewed. Rand Paul, it seems like Rand Paul went to private schools. He went to parochial schools, or private, I guess parochial would be the... He acts like he's richer and better than everybody. He acts like he's Wall Street. He acts like he's bought and paid for by Wall Street. He just acts like a snob. I don't know. Just something about the way he talks just gets on my nerves. So he's got the reins of power here in the bluegrass But Rand Paul doesn't even know about Bloody Harlan. Rand Paul, you want to say that she ain't Kentucky, you ain't Kentucky. You don't even know. They said, someone asked him the question, what does Harlan County represent to you in Kentucky history? What do you think about when you think about Harlan County? And he said the coal fields, but he didn't say the miners' strike. In 1930s and 1970s, there was Bloody Harlan. There was Bloody Harlan. Harlan County, USA is a documentary that won a ton of awards, and it's really good too. Very exciting, exhilarating. 1970 strike. That's what Harlan County is known for. Bloody Harlan. Rand didn't know about Bloody Harlan. You Kentucky, Rand? How are you Kentucky when you don't even know about Bloody Harlan? So, Ashley Judd, Kentucky loves Ashley Judd. We don't have too many heroes, but when we do have them, we hold on to them tight. Ashley Judd is more real than you, Rand Paul. You're picking on a woman, and you and Mitch and Jesse Benton, you guys are going after this woman with your guns already drawn. You're already drawn. You're ready to shoot. You don't think it's a little too much? You showed up to her house with your tanks and your battle flags, and you're just ready to go to war. I mean, you acted like you're Mr. Captain Hilljack, but really just showing that you're naked. You know, you ain't Billy Badass. You're just Billy No Ass. You ain't Billy Badass. You're fucking Billy. You're just a naked hillbilly on the street. I don't know. You're not Billy Badass. You're Billy Nobody, and just you're vulnerable as Mitch McConnell is. So that's great. Kentucky has all these dishonorable Republican senators, and the dishonorable Republican senators of Kentucky have prematurely ejaculated. And Mitch McConnell's so old he probably needed Viagra just to even get it up. Mitch the bitch needs to be ditched. He's Kentucky's worst. Mitch McConnell hired Jesse Benton, who was behind Ron Paul and Rand Paul's campaigns. In Ron Paul's campaigns, he was able to utilize this notion called money bombs, which were folks go to house parties and they pledge to give Ron Paul lots of money. So on November 1st, we're going to have a big money bomb, and we're going to have a bunch of parties, and you're going to donate a bunch of money to Ron Paul. That's how Ron Paul was able to raise millions of dollars within just one day because of those money bombs. Also, Ron Paul's strength was the many $5 and $10 donations that he had received. So they're able to get the big donations, but also those $5, $10 donations are able to effectively utilize that and to turn themselves into a big powerhouse machines off these little donations. And actually, there's a lot of things that I admire about the Pauls, and that's one of them things. $5, $10 donations, that's regular people. That's democracy. Our democracy, we don't have, we're not out on the streets as much as I'd like to see, but we can vote with our money. Here's $5, here's $10 to the candidate I support. I'm going to donate some money. Here's $5, here's $10. And I think that's a good idea. I think buying her books or buying anything, she's got a movie, buying movies, there's a lot of things actually. Ashley Judd memorabilia that you could sell that would work out well. So Rand Paul isn't Mr. Razzle. He is he is mini Ron Paul. And I think ideologically speaking, he takes all of his ideas from his daddy. But to win the presidency, he's going to bullshit him all the way to the top, just like he did in Kentucky. He bullshit Kentucky win, so he's going to bullshit America and win. I say bullshit, but he's been actually throwing some pretty strong rhetoric at Barack Obama and his militarism, which Obama is an empire war president. So having Rand Paul criticize it's not. There's some things. Rand Paul's right about the war. He's right about prohibition, and he's right about auditing the Fed. Of course, we should balance the budget. Of course, we should listen to the Constitution. Those things are givens. But the prohibition, the imperialism, and auditing the Fed, and the Patriot Act. So those are four major issues, and balance the budget. Those are five major issues that both the right and the left, agree on. Your all's right, your left, my right, your my left. The five issues is prohibition, so end the war on drugs, the Patriot Act, the NDAA, stop spying on our citizens, stop tapping our emails, stop listening to our phone calls, and the Patriot Act, which I just mentioned, but in the Empire Wars of Empire. So bring all our troops home. We got 130 bases all across the world. Let's reel that back in. We spend more money on our military than all the countries in the world combined, all of them combined. So we don't need to keep on building money. We don't need to keep on spending money for bombs, especially since we're going bankrupt and we need food here.